Good morning, fifth graders. Welcome to our technology class. This is week 25. So this week we are back into our typing lessons. And so we're going to be having our lesson is alpha data entry. So this is our fifth assignment so far in the third quarter for typing. So please make sure that you're getting all your typing done. If you fell behind, please catch up this weekend. So that way you can get 100 for all of your typing, okay? And you do have to complete the full lesson because if you don't, then it won't show up as a yes, and then I can't give you 100. So some of the assignments have like multiple parts to the lesson. So just make sure that you're actually doing all of it, okay? So that way you could actually get credit for it. So this week we're doing another one of our internet safety lessons. And we are actually learning about reading news online. And this is important because you guys now, you're getting older and you come across the news, maybe even you have to do some research or something. And understanding an article, right, and being able to label all the parts of an article and knowing what they are is important because it can even help you to determine whether or not a news story is fake news or if it actually is real too. So you have to understand first off, how do I read the news online, right? Because it's very much different. Like in the old days, guess what? When you were in middle school or high school, you could get a job being the person who goes around and delivers the newspapers. That was a real job that kids would do. And you'd have newspapers, you'd have to go to every house and you'd have to deliver one. And it would be the daily newspaper. I don't think anybody gets the daily newspaper delivered anymore because it's all online. But yeah, there used to be a paper newspaper, believe it or not. And it would get printed every day and it would have the news in it. And you could have it delivered to your house. And a lot of the times it was like a high school kid, that was their part-time job, delivering newspapers. The world has changed, right? I don't know what your part-time jobs will be, part-time robot makers or something when you guys are in high school. But so part-time like YouTubers, gosh, it's changed so much from the old days, which wasn't even really that long ago. But it just seems like technology has crept up on us so quickly. And now everything's online. So whenever we go for the news, everybody goes to their news app, they go to a news website, and that's how they get the news in 2021. So we're going to be looking at the important parts of an online news article today. And so it's going to help us because it'll help us to watch out for when we're reading online news to be able to know what everything is on there. Oh, excuse me. So then that way we can know all of the parts and we can understand what it is we're looking at, right? And it can help us to determine if it's something that's credible, which means is it a trustworthy news site that we could actually look at it and say, oh yeah, okay, I think I could trust this article. I think it's true. So what is the news? Well, the news is news about new information about events that are going on, right? Recent events, important events. That's pretty much what the news is. And yes, nowadays it can be pretty hard to find the truth because a lot of people on the news, they have a lot of bias, which means that they have like a one-sided opinion and they really just stick that into the news instead of just giving the facts about this is what happened, this is what happened. They say, oh, it seems like this happened and this is why. And they come up with all these things that meet with their opinions, right? So we do have to be careful. The best way to get accurate news is to look around at credible, trustworthy news sources and get a few different articles on the same topic and then try to find the common kind of facts that are listed and instead of getting the opinion and the bias, right? And then you can find somewhere in the middle is the truth of what really happened in the news story, right? So we're going to be observing and analyzing this article today as an example for us to look at all the different parts of a news story. before we do that, let me put this video on.
Knowing what's going on in the world is awesome, but reading the news online can be tricky. What you see can be distracting, confusing, or even completely false. So if you're reading a news article online, it's important to know your way around. The URL is a one-of-a-kind address for every web page. Always double-check to make sure you're actually on the page you're looking for. Headlines tell us what the story is all about, but sometimes they can exaggerate or say something different from the article to get you to click on them. Most news sites have different sections to tell you what type of article you are reading. If you want the facts, just be sure you're not on an opinion article. The byline is the writer's name, and the date is when it was published. No byline, no date? The article might not be trustworthy. Images or videos help introduce the story and show details that words can't. But pictures that seem too crazy to be true or ads before a video could be misleading. Related articles can be useful, but keep an eye out for pieces that don't report just the news. Sponsored content is links to things on other websites, but watch out for clickbait. Don't let shocking headlines or wild images trick you into clicking. Advertisements link to other websites that are usually selling something, but some ads are disguised to look like news. The comment section has thoughts and opinions from readers, but remember that anyone can post just about anything there, even if it's mean or completely untrue. It's a lot to keep in mind, but if you know what to look for and what to look out for, you'll be the first to get the story.
Okay. So we are going to take a look. And so there's a couple of things they mentioned in the video. If an article doesn't have an author or a date, that's a red flag that it may not really be a real news story, right? And if you remember a couple of weeks ago, we learned about clickbait, right? And how they try to just get you to click on it with some outrageous headline, and it works. People do click on those things all the time. And so that's why we're learning about these things, so that you guys will be smarter and you won't waste your time clicking on clickbait, right? Or clicking on fake news stories that lead you to nothing. And I know you guys have been out there, even if you're on YouTube and you see some video with like a catchy headline, and then you're like, oh, let me click on it. I can't even believe it. Like, girl lost all of her teeth in one day. This is crazy. And so you just want to click on it because it sounds so like outrageous. And so you have to really stop yourself and be like, this is just a waste of time. This is probably fake, right? So don't believe everything that's out there on the internet, and be smart about, which news you look at and that you actually believe, right? So when you look at the news and you think about, is this a news story that's accurate and believable? You have to use your brain and stop and think. And that's why we're going to go through this today to help you guys. So let me just pull this up. Okay, so everybody's going to get one of these sheets. I'll email it over to you. And this is the article that we're going to do it together, and then you can label it yourself. So a couple of things. You might want to just label it with by doing insert a comment. And then for example, if you wanted to label part of it, you could maybe try doing that, putting a comment by it. If you are a little bit more creative and you want to, I'm just trying to think the easiest way. You could probably try to here, let me just try this out. Hang on. Okay, so you know what I think the easiest way to do this homework? I'm going to send it to you in a PDF. And then when you open it, save it right away. So you could save it on your desktop, and then go into the draw tool, and you can choose whatever color you want. And then, however, I wouldn't make it too thick because you're going to actually write with it. And then you can just write, we're going to label it. So for example, We're going to go through all the parts of an article. So the headline. So this is the first part of an article, is your headline, right? And the headline is the title of the news article. It's usually printed in big, bold letters near the top of the article. The headline tells the reader what the article is about before they start reading. So major storm drops rain, hail on area residents. That's the title. So if I were to go into my, I could just draw around this like this. And then I could just make a little line here and I could label this title. So you guys can do that. So then that way, this will probably be the easiest way to do this assignment, would be to just label it with the draw tool. So that's our title. Okay, let's look at our next part. So our next part is our byline, The byline is the name of the article's author. So it tells the readers the name of the person or people who wrote the article. Why is this important? Because if you want to check to see that a news article is legit, and you look to whoever wrote it, the author, you should be able to Google that author's name and see other articles that they've published. If they don't have any other articles, that's a red flag. They only wrote one news article? Like, who are they? Are they some like new reporter that just got out of college? Like, if they work for a reputable news site, then chances are pretty likely that they will have a lot of news articles that they are putting onto that news site. So you should be able to find out more information about them. So you can then go back into your sheet here if you want to switch to a different color maybe. And then you can have maybe underline this and then have a line there. And then you can label it. This is your byline. Okay, so that's where your author's name is. And it's usually under the title. Sorry, I'm obviously challenged with my artistic abilities, but okay. So now let's go to the next one. URL. This is also important, right? So does everybody know what a URL is? A one-of-a-kind address. Your URL, like, you know, when somebody mails you something and you have to go to the post office and you put the letter in the mailbox, you write your address, right? I live at 123 Sycamore Street, you know, Madison, Wisconsin. And so then that's your address. Your URL is kind of like your address on the internet. And so we can go exactly to the location of this article if we have the URL. And so it can help if, say, you want to share it with somebody, you would just copy and paste the URL and send it to them. And then when they go to that URL, they'll get to this exact article. So that's an important part of the article, is like, say you want somebody to actually be able to get to it, then you need to give them the URL. You're giving them the address, the location of where it is. And so the thing is that as you get older and you do a lot of research, you know, maybe you have to write a paper or an essay or something, do a project, you can't just put a source as Google. Where did you get your information from? Google. No, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. If you did a Google search and it led you to this article, then you would need in your sources to put the name of this article, the author, the URL of the article. So that way, if your teacher, your professor, somebody who's reading your work, they can easily go to that URL and they can find it and make sure you didn't plagiarize and copy everything. If they want to just go and read a little bit more on it themselves, they can get to that article, right? So this is very important. Because I noticed, I think back, I know in 4th grade, we did a lot with PowerPoints and you guys had to do research. And I can't remember if we did that in the beginning of this year. We might've did a little bit of that where you needed to have sources. And I always find that kids just put Google as their source. And that doesn't count. You can't just put that as your source. You have to put the full title of the article where you got the information, the author, the date where you got it from, the URL where it's located. These are important pieces of information that should be listed in your sources, so that way it makes your research and your paper and your project legit. That somebody can say, wow, they went and they've read that whole article and this is what they learned from it. And that's why they're using it in their paper, right? And so you can't, I just hope that you guys, as you get in middle school, you can't just put Google. That doesn't count as a source. You can't just put Wikipedia. That doesn't count. You have to be specific. Where exactly did you find it on the internet? Somebody should be able to go to that exact article that you found and then go and look at it and make sure, you know, where they got their information from. So that's something for you guys to learn. Second, title. So some articles have a section. It's a category or a section of an article on a news website. It tells you what type of article you're reading and how the article is categorized on the website. So for example, this one, and I'll go back to here. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. For this one, if you notice, it's under weather, right? So you see how weather is like darkened? So because the sections on the news article, national, world, technology, weather, sports, right? So we know in this case that it's weather, right? And so we could even look at the main title and we could say, oh yeah, major storm. It would make sense that this would be the section title because it has to do with weather. So we could name this section title. I'm not going to write the whole word out. Section title, you can write it out when it's your turn. So that's an important thing to look at, especially if you are researching something within a greater topic. You want to make sure that your article, it makes sense. It falls under that section title, that section of the website. Okay, images. A lot of the times online articles, they have images, right? What is that? It's a picture or a video, right? It's usually near the top, and it helps to introduce the article. It can show details that words can't, right? Like we see in this case, you know, it's really showing the storm that's going to be coming, right? So we would know this is our image. So we could label that and we know that's our image, right? Woo, woo, look at that. It's like a kindergartner's proud work. So we know that's the image. Okay, date. This is important, right? The exact date, sometimes even the time. With online, a lot of the times you'll notice the article will even have a time, 8:02 p.m. Why is that important? That actually is very important in the news that the day and age that we live in. News changes in a second. So you might get an article that was from 3 hours ago and it already is irrelevant and outdated because more news has come out since then. And 3 hours later, it's completely different. So you should take a note. When you click on an article, check and see what time it was from. You can see the date, but then you can also check the time, because if it's a news story where maybe not all the details are out yet, it's still progressing, the reporters and things are still getting more information, the story is changing. Reading something, again, from a few hours ago, believe it or not, that's already going to be outdated news. That's old news. And it's crazy because news happens so quickly that nowadays, the way it spreads, it's just crazy how something from like 3 days ago is like, people are like, oh, whatever, that was 3 days ago. It's like, this is what happened like today, at this very minute, this is what's happening. So you do have to be careful with that. So in our article, I think this is pretty easy, but our date is right here. So you would label your date. Okay. Our next thing is related articles. So you'll see this a lot on internet websites. These are links to more articles from the same website. They may be similar to the one you're reading. They help show readers more articles that might be interesting or important. So if they're related articles. So again, like how some residents are cleaning up, opinion, time to upgrade our storm drains, analysis, drought still in the forecast. So as you can see, these related articles, they all have to do with the storm and rain or whatever. And so they have to do with the same topic. And they just try to get people to click on those and read more about it, right? Advertisements. Oh, I love how they put the rain boots right in the article where there's going to be a storm. Gosh, aren't they so clever, right? When the first thought is, my rain boots have a hole in them. I need to get new rain boots. Let me click on the ad for, oh, it's right there. Look, they're on sale too. So advertisements or ads, they're links to other websites. They're trying to sell something. They help the news website make money by selling space on their article pages, right? So that is definitely something that's important. So if you look here, they're trying to sell rain boots, 20% off. So clever of them, getting our attention so we can go and get prepared for this storm that's coming and get our new rain boots, right? Sponsored content. Usually this is around the advertisements as well. This is links to another website. It's not news usually. It might look like news, but it usually helps news websites make money by selling space on their article pages. So for example, say you are the top news website. Everybody goes to your website for the news. If you're a company who has a product and you want to get people to your website, you could then pay money to the news site to get your sponsored content on their website. And so you might pay money to get one spot on a news site, you know, maybe you pay like to get it on there daily, monthly, whatever. And then when you get it on there and people see it, if say, you know, this gets 1 million views or something, there's a chance those 1 million people could click on your thing and go to your website, and it could help you sell your product. So that's definitely something to look out for. So anything here, these are all sponsored content. These things are just clickbait. They're trying to get you to click on them because these people want to make money, and they're trying to use the attention and the followers of this news site to get their attention to click on those things. So that's part of the news. Comments. This is something that we've talked about, the difference between media and digital media. And in the old days, if we go back to our newspaper delivery, you get your newspaper, you read your newspaper, you always see those old movies, right? Where the dad comes home and he like has his pipe and he's sitting in the living room and he's got his old newspaper and he's like, get me my slippers, right? Well, guess what? He couldn't talk to the news because there was no way to make comments. He could read it, he could get mad, he could talk to the wife or the family, right? I can't believe this happened. Where's the dog? Tell him to get my slippers, right? Just kidding. I guess none of you guys have ever seen those old 1950s sitcom shows. That's kind of how it went. So when nowadays we have digital media and you're online and you go to a news story, and guess what? You can type away. People are having fights on these news sites. Can't believe you did that. Oh, what about you? And they go back and forth and they make comments about all these news articles and things. And they waste their entire day commenting about the news article. I don't even know how they get their jobs done. Some people are just on these sites commenting all day and night, right? And so this is a whole new thing that's just around now since technology and news websites that people can go on and comment about the news. So that's another part that you guys can circle. So here's the comments. So again, you can label it comments. I'm not going to write it, but you can label it. And that's all the parts of the article. Woohoo! You guys made it through. So what you'll do is, remember, open the PDF, save it on your desktop, Then start going in and marking it up, and make sure before you send it, you press this little save button over here where it says save, because you want to make sure that it saves what you wrote. Because when you email it to me and I open it up, I should be able to see that you marked it up. If you don't save it, then it'll just, when you go and send it, it'll be a blank doc, whatever you wrote on it. So you do have to make sure you press this little save button in the upper right-hand corner to make sure that you do save your work. So you're saving it the first time on the desktop. Second time when you're done, you're pressing the little save button, and then you can close it and attach it and email it to me. Okay? So this is good practice, getting you used to labeling a news article. It does come with labels, but we obviously we couldn't do this. We can't cut it out and do all that because we don't have the tools and we're not together. So it's easier to do it this way through the PDF. And then what else did I want to say to you guys? Yeah, don't forget to do your typing. And that is basically it. That was our lesson for today. So please make sure, you know, as you go online, and this could go for anything, you know, whether you're on a news website, even on YouTube, be careful what you click on. And I don't always believe everything that you see out there on the internet. There's a lot of things that are just made up, that are just trying to distract you and get your attention and get you to click on it. So don't be fooled, okay? Be smarter than that. Now you guys should know, right? Okay, guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.